How old is your daughter?
13.
Okay. So with a 13-year-old, you shouldn't have to have that much contact with her dad. Because she should be able to talk to him. If he comes to your house to pick her up, you should be able to send her out the door and she should get in the car with her dad and just go.
Correct.
Is she afraid of her dad?
No, I do not let her ride in the car with him because he's a gang member and he's been shot at in 2 states. And I refuse to let my daughter be around him for her safety. I don't want him getting shot at again and my child in the car. And that's another reason he cannot come to my house. He's a gang member,
Okay.
and I don't want him bringing that.
Allegedly, he's a gang member.
Ma'am,
Did
it's
you know that
documented.
before you had a baby by him?
Unfortunately, I did.
Oh, okay.
Because that should probably clarify something here.
Uh-oh.
Allegedly. I probably shouldn't be laughing at that. This take is interesting. Obviously, they're in some sort of formal environment for court. I believe it has to do with maybe custody or child support payments. I think the interesting thing that I observed in this is just like the tension between the woman, between the woman and the man. More so her towards him because he wasn't speaking, so couldn't gauge much from that. But just to start here, I'll start right here. I think it has to be difficult when two adults have to get the court involved. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I just think the ability for those two people to be able to co-parent and work things out has to be really bad. The relationship between them two have to be really bad if you have to get the courts involved. Now, I do think just from life experience, hearing about people's, story, sometimes it's best, considering the circumstances to get the courts involved. But man, I also know how the court system, just from like documentaries and just knowing that how the world works, it's a money machine. So when you're having to go to court, none of that stuff is free. Somebody's paying for all of that. To have a judge oversee it, you have to get attorneys involved, and it's a lot. So I just observed that first, like, man, if you got the courts involved, y'all don't get along. For the most part, you're not able to come to an agreement. Let me say it like that. Either you can't get along at all, or you're not able to come to an agreement to where you both feel like, okay, this works. And then the court system, it's a money machine, so they getting paid. Money gotta happen. I think that the worst part of this is the child. I'm hearing her say, he's a gang member. It's documented. I don't want him around my daughter. It's like, well, it's not just your daughter, it's y'all daughter together. And then the judge asks her wise question, did you know that he was in the gang when, before y'all had the baby? She's like, yes, unfortunately. No, it's not unfortunately. You're using, we don't even know if he's in the gang, but you're using that as a weapon to try to, gain leverage in your case against him for whether it's child custody, child support, whatever it is. And that's one of the things that makes this whole process so unfortunate, because you start to see just how manipulative humans are and how they move in ways that are so low, so disgusting, so evil, just to get the outcome that they want. That's the thing about life. You can't control things when you have others involved. Y'all chose to have a child together. Now you two need to be mature enough to handle this in a way that's respectful, especially for the child. But when when you're not mature enough, this is what you see. You see people getting out of character, or that's their character in general. They haven't developed a good character, so they start doing stuff like this. It's something that I'm glad the judge called out. I know there's a lot that could be said, but I just want to, just kind of expand this situation to a conversation that I think is the bigger part of it. Like, are men and women properly vetting one another? Or are they just moving off impulse? Are they considering God's structure for romance and marriage? Or are they just doing whatever they want to do? I'd like to say culturally, as a society, especially here in the States, I can speak for because I live here in America, there's this idea that everybody don't want to be married. Okay, that's cool. But the best idea for love is what God has instituted. The best idea for family is what God has instituted, which is marriage. And the best thing for children is what? A mother and a father in the home. So to just be like, well, we want to have kids, but we don't want to do it God's way. We don't want the structure that's best or that's normative. We don't have to do it that way. When I hear a lot of that, I hear, I just want to do it my way so I can have the outcomes I want. And this is what you end up with 9 times out of 10. This is how it ends up being. Venom being spewed at one another, the need for the court system, the child being caught up in the middle of it, being traumatized. And that's why I feel like the conversation needs to be expanded from what we're seeing in this video to the point of, are we vetting properly? How do we vet? Have we been taught to vet properly? Are we considering principles in the Bible? Are we reading books that so many people have written about how men think, how women think, how relationships work? You have that popular book, The 5 Love Languages. You have another one, I think it's Spaghettis and Waffles. These are books that people can read if you really, really want healthy relationships, healthy marriage, healthy families, healthy homes. There are resources out there, and the responsibility comes back to us, the men and women who are in these relationships and marriages and are having children, to properly vet. Not to, just because you have a child together doesn't mean you should get married. If we're being intimate and you got pregnant, it does not mean like, oh, now we just need to get married. If you all were planning to get married, you've been doing the work to get married, great. But if you all were already considering breaking up, or you weren't sure, or you don't think he's a good leader, you don't think she's a good wife, she would make a good wife, why get married? Because the lack of work that you've done or haven't, like the work that you haven't done will show up. Just because you get married, it's not going to change anything. If anything, it's going to magnify everything that's going on. So I'd say, just in expanding this conversation, we have to take responsibility for vetting one another better, taking the time to slow down on the romantic experience. The fancy dinners, the gifts, and look more into getting to know the person, learning their past, getting a context of who they are, their life, why they think how they think, why they speak how they speak, why they do what they do, what voice do they have. It's a lot of that. So proper vetting will help with that. I also think knowing Jesus, having a right relationship with God helps with this. Because when we have a healthy relationship with God, He calls for us to be humble. He calls for us to be selfless. He calls for us to be soft with our words and to not stir up anger. He calls for us to work together. He gives us a structure which helps the man and the woman, husband and wife, be good to one another and healthy with one another, and also great parents. I think that's what needs to be considered. And as always, I think that, there's hope even for their situation. Let's say they decide to get back together. Who knows? Getting a relationship with Jesus, getting some practical counseling and resources to help, do the work that's necessary for them to have a healthy relationship and be a healthy family. Or let's say they decide we're not getting back together, it's over for us. Still having a relationship with Jesus as individuals, doing the work that's necessary to reflect on why things went the way they went, and the work and character to make sure that they can be good co-parents. And then also, maybe they want to date in the future, there are resources out there for how to approach, doing relationship and life with somebody who already have children. So it's just a matter of work. There's hope for these kind of situations. They're really ugly, but there's hope for them, and you can work through it and see the other side of joy and peace if you're willing to do the work. But y'all let me know what y'all think in the comment section, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.
Stand on it, be strong.